up, Briskafki? So for the past little while, I've been using empty bases in place of my scarabs whenever I've been playing, because I've been working on getting together the materials to properly do my scarab bases the way I want. Whenever I would run off anything on my 3D printer, I would also throw on a couple of scarabs with it of varying sizes and designs. And over the past couple of months, I've built up a pretty decent collection of 3D printed scarabs. Now, I want my scarab bases to be just completely packed full of scarabs. I want them to actually feel like a real swarm, as opposed to the just 5 or 6 that you normally have on there. I am using my custom molded bases for this. I do have a video on how I made them, which you can check out here if you're interested. To assemble my bases, I started by wrapping them in a little bit of cling film. Since I don't want my scarabs to be glued down just yet, I'm hoping it'll be easier to paint them if I keep them separate from the bases for now. So I'm just putting together a random assortment of scarabs for each base and gluing them down using super glue. Now, I did end up being a little bit lazy while I was 3D printing these, and I did leave a mason jar full of isopropyl alcohol and scarabs sitting out on windowsill for a couple of months. And as a result of that, some of these prints are quite cracked in places and look fairly damaged. I end up actually thinking that it looks pretty nice for this. As always, when you're dealing with Necrons, anything to make them look a little bit more weathered tends to be kind of a plus. I did use a variety of different 3D prints for this, of varying levels of detail and quality. So some of these tend not to look super defined. A few of them have some fairly muddy details on them. But like I said in my speed painting video, the goal here isn't for each individual part to look perfect. The goal is for the effect of the swarm to look good. The effect of having all of the scarabs swarming all over each other and crawling and having this kind of mass is far more important than any individual part. I do think the end results are very effective for the look that I wanted, where they actually feel like a swarm of insects crawling across the ground towards you. Now, I'm sure some people are going to complain about my use of 3D printed parts here, but I am going to make sure that I put at least 3 to 4 plastic scarabs on each base. And as far as I'm concerned, all of the other ones are just 3D printed basing material. After I got all of my bases glued together and gave them a little while for the glue to cure, I carefully removed the scarabs from the cling film. I did have a couple of pieces break off while I was doing this, but I was able to fairly easily glue them back together. I did make sure to keep the scarabs paired to the bases, since they were put together to conform to the structure of them. After I got all of them separated, I was able to move on to painting. I started just by sticking them on to the caps of some paint bottles using some poster tack, and then giving them a spray with black primer. After that, I moved on to spraying them all down with a coat of Vallejo silver. This is a little bit different from my normal process of painting Necrons, where I use Stormhost silver. I figured I would experiment with doing something a little bit different, see if I can't find a quicker method of painting them. In addition to that, I'm also trying to get some more practice in with my airbrush, since I'm not very experienced with it yet. After that, I gave them a quick wash of Nuln oil and glued them down to the bases. And the rest of the paint job was just following my standard Necron recipe. I do have a full video where I go over that process, but the quick version of that is Army Painter True Copper with a wash of Agrax Earthshade, Auric Armor Gold with a wash of Reekland Flesh Shade, a dab of Cyberite Green, stippling on Vallejo Blue Green, and then the glow effects are done using Vallejo Royal Purple and built up to white, and then given a wash of Drushi Violet in the recesses. And like that, I've got a set of 9 lovely looking scarab swarms. I happen to be really happy with how they turned out. I think they look really nice and definitely do a good job of selling the effect that I was going for. But I don't know, what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. And in the next video, I'm going to try committing some copyright infringement. So go ahead and subscribe if that sounds like something that would interest you. And until next time, remember, we all have our own hobby journey, and I'd like to thank you for joining me on mine.